Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, into the Rowdy Studio today. Tom Voort with Stephen Levine talking about the big news in NASCAR. Bristol Motor Speedway, a reconfiguration, no more progressive banking.
Right, and progressive banking, if you're not clear what that means as you get closer to the top of the track, it gets steeper, sort of like a curve. And what they're going to do at Bristol is they're going to grind off that top groove and sort of flatten it
back out again
to make the angle sort of the same from top to bottom. Their hope is that takes away some of the advantage you got from hugging the wall.
The idea behind progressive banking is pretty simple. Generally, the lower groove has a little bit of an advantage because it's the faster way around the track. On the other hand, you can get your car wound up pretty good around the top of the track. So the idea is if you put a little more banking up there, you can kind of even the grooves out, a little more speed up at the top, shorter distance down at the bottom, and therefore you get side-by-side racing. But what the fans have said at Bristol is there's too much room out there and there's not enough action, by which we mean contact between race cars. Sometimes that leads to wrecks, sometimes that leads to flared tempers, and that was a lot of what I like to call the personality of Bristol.
The allure.
The personality is what fans love about this sport. The personality of the drivers, the personality of the cars, the personality of the racetracks. And you got to give Bruton Smith and SMI some credit for saying, very quickly, because the reconfiguration of Bristol to add the progressive banking, not that old. And they said, you know what? The people don't have the same feel about this track that they had before. And whether it's a legitimate observation that the racing's not as good, or whether it's just an emotional reaction to the fact that the personality's not the same, we're going to change it.
Yeah, and Bruton Smith said in the press conference this morning that he is not a fan of progressive banking. He even said he considered using it at Charlotte when they built that racetrack and decided against it. So perhaps there was already a strike against progressive banking in Bruton Smith's mind.
Well, you almost wondered if they did it sort of over. He did it over his own. And then he said, you know what, the fans don't like it. I never liked it. Screw it. We're going back to the old way.
What they said is right now you've got 3 distinct grooves at Bristol, and what they're hoping this accomplishes is just taking away that very top groove. So there will still be 2 grooves on the racetrack, which is a little bit different than traditional Bristol.
Traditional Bristol was a 1-groove track.
So you might still have some side-by-side racing.
We'll have to see.
And
we really don't know.
I, for one, hope that there are still 2 distinct grooves. I would hate to see us go back to the way Bristol was completely before the repave.
Well,
I think that would be a problem.
I don't know if I didn't actually have any problem with the racing that we have at Bristol right now with progressive
nor
banking.
did I, and I think this is a little bit of an overreaction.
Well, I don't know if it's an overreaction, right?
Because
I think this is about perception being reality. It's about the feeling that fans have about this track and about the racing there. And when you have a 1-groove track, as Martinsville is, where there's just not a lot of room to go fast. You know, if you get out of that one fast groove, you're not going anywhere. What does that mean? Guys have to fight for that spot. That's the old Saturday night bull ring we talk about. That's short track racing. Now, Richmond's kind of neat because Richmond is more of a multi-groove track, kind of like what we have at Bristol. And you see great side-by-side racing there. That's part of that track's personality, and fans have embraced that aspect of it. And drivers have too. But the personality of Bristol was always more about fighting for a limited piece of real estate, and this is going to take us back in that direction. So I was skeptical about it, but I've thought about it, and I think it's the right move.
I still, if it was me, I probably wouldn't have done anything, but I like that they are making a limited effort here, and by limited I mean it's sort of a compromise between old Bristol and new Bristol. They're not just tearing up the racetrack and reverting back to what it was. They're sort of striking a nice balance.
Well, the fact of the matter is you can't put it back the way it was.
Well, especially not in the time frame they have.
And the thing is, you could try to mimic it exactly. It still wouldn't be exactly the same. So you're going to have to move on, but what you're trying to do is give it its personality.
And like you said, we're not going to know until the night race in August.
And I guarantee you, there's going to be a lot more people there than would have been there before.
I'm sure. And
so mission accomplished in the short term at least.
Exactly. Good on Bruton Smith and SMI. All right. For Tom Voort, I'm Stephen Levine. Thanks a lot for watching.